Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we've got a beer that I'm really excited to do. It's a style I don't review all that often. It's one of the styles that I started drinking early from really old German brewers at my local German restaurant that kind of started me down the path of drinking better beer and eventually transitioning into trying craft beer from throughout the world and certainly America, of course. But it's a brewer we've done a few beers from, but it's certainly been a long time since I've done one of theirs. We're jumping into a beer from Radiant Beer Company out of Anaheim, California. This specific beer is called Blank Slate, and this is a Witbier. 5.2% ABV on this one. Let's look at the label art first. It's very, very brightly colored. I don't know how I would describe this. It almost reminds me of like a nighttime photograph where there's a lot of light causing flare and glare of multi kind of colors, and you get the spheres, kind of some move in and out depending on your perspective. That's kind of the vibe I get off of it. I really like it. If you're into photography, you know what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, that looks really, really cool. So today I'm using my nice Tavour glass. This is a Weizen beer style glass, a German brewer here. I've had this for years. It's only 0.3 liters. I'm not going to come close to getting the whole beer in here, but the style of it is perfect for wheat beers. So Witbier. We talked about this a bit in the past, but there's a lot of confusion because there's a lot of things that kind of sound the same that aren't, or that are the same but use different words. And if you didn't study German, maybe you don't know. So I'll just give a quick and dirty breakdown. So Witbier, this means literally wheat beer. But the German word for wheat is Weizen. So you know a Hefeweizen, and we've talked about this before in the past. Hefe is the German word for yeast. Weizen is wheat. So literally Hefeweizen, that style, is yeast wheat. That's what it literally translates into in English. And it tells you a fair bit about the beer. But Witbier just means wheat beer. So why the two different words for wheat? That I don't know, but I do know that it does refer to a very specific kind of type and means of brewing this wheat substyle of beer. Witbiers, unlike Hefes, even though Hefes can often be cloudy and maybe even typically are, they don't have to be. Witbiers are always cloudy. They're going to look occluded, hazy. And they're also always brewed with citrus peel and typically have added spices. Coriander being the main, that would be like coriander seed. Not what, say, people from the UK would think, why would you put cilantro in beer or coriander in beer? We're talking about the seed of that same plant. We're not talking about cilantro leaves or stems. So that's a little bit of the breakdown. And again, just to get off the confusion's sake, Hefe is the German word for yeast. Weizen is the German word for wheat. Witbier is what they call the style that's wheat beer, that's always cloudy, and it's always going to be brewed with some citrus peel and typically has added spices, coriander seeds being the most common. And then just to get rid of any confusion, well, Weissbier, I hear that a lot. That literally means white beer. Can be yeast, can be wheat. It doesn't have to be, though that is the norm. It literally is more a reference to the color, Weiss being the color for white, so light. They're very pale. Like if you've ever had Blanche de Chambly from Unibrew, the Canadian brewer, that's a Weissbier, a very light Weissbier. Very delicious, but there's a lot of relation, but that's just your quick little kind of beer sub-style, the nomenclature, what the words mean. So, without further ado, let's get this cracked, poured it right in our old Tavour glass. You could say Tavour, like an English person would spell the word hush, S-H, would that sound Tavour? Or you could say Tucher, but in German, the CH is actually one of the, you kind of have to practice it. It's a more challenging sound if you want to speak it like a native would speak it. It's kind of a cross between a SH and a K sound. So like the German word for I, the pronoun I is ich. It's not ich, it's not ich, it's ich. It's kind of a hybrid. So you kind of, in the roof of your mouth, make a K while lightly doing a ch, like almost like you're saying sh or s, like making a snake sound. It's hard to describe. It takes practice, but this is the same. So it's Tavour. But nonetheless, I'm getting off topic here, so without further ado, we're going to get this poured right in the old glass. Oh, that is pouring lovely. Yeah, like I said, it's only 0.3 liter this glass, and this is clearly a pint can, so we are not going to get this entire beer in here. And I'll fill it right up to the line they mark on the back. That is a lovely thing. Okay, so this is, as they call a Witbier. It is definitely a little hazy. It's hard to tell. If you were looking at this in person, you would say, wow, that looks really light, very, very pale yellow, and it looks clear, looks see-through. It's really not. It does absolutely have a definite haze to it, and it is hard to tell just because of the light shade that's coming through. Maybe the camera is not even picking it up, but it is a hazy beer style, and this looks beautiful. Really tight, fine, tiny, active champagne-like bubbles coming up. So yes, it did form a pretty nice head. This is very typical for a Witbier. Let's get right up for a full sniff here. Oh yeah. Wow, that smells incredible. So this smells just as Germanic as any German Witbier I've ever had, to be certain. It's got the right appearance, it's got the right aroma. It smells a little doughy, a little bready, a little yeasty. There's a definite citrus kind of rind vibe coming off of it. Spices, yeah, I'm not really getting anything that I can pick out. Oh, that might smell like coriander seed. Oh, maybe that smells like a bit of clove, like you often get that aroma and flavor in a Hefeweizen. But in this one, I'm really just smelling the underlying malt bill, a little bit of that citrus from the citrus peel side that is classic in this style, but it smells absolutely incredible. The other thing I can tell you that I got on the aroma here that you don't always or even often get on a Witbier, but it smells amazing. I'm getting a lot of bright, fresh, ripe apple, and it really smells to me almost like Granny Smith, like those tart green-skinned apples. It smells incredible. I expect this to be light, to be refreshing, and absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's jump right in and give a dive. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything about this is spot on. This beer would do a German brewer proud. Absolutely. This was brewed completely to the spirit of the Witbier style. Absolutely on point. The body is light. It is not a heavy beer. Really 5.2%. It feels light compared to most of the beers that I drink, but I wouldn't say it's like light. It doesn't feel, unweighted, almost like, or equivalent to water. It's got a bit more heft to it than that. I would say realistically, it's kind of on the lower end of the medium light spectrum. It is 5.2% ABV after all. So yes, there are malts added. Obviously, it's got a bit more density than water. So yeah, but it's not a heavy beer. It's not supposed to be. The classic style, it's not. It's a light, lower ABV, crisp, refreshing beer. Now, I'll drink these year-round in Florida, but typically these are beers that you're going to see a lot and people drinking a lot in spring and in the summer months when it's very, very hot outside. And there's a reason for that. They're just crisp and light and refreshing. They're not oppressively heavy, and you still get to get your beer fix on. On this, yeah, very clear, very present. It does have that classic Witbier, or there's a lot of commonality between a Witbier aroma and flavor profile and your average Hefeweizen. There are, due to the nature of the spices and the citrus peel that they put in there, you do get a lot of the same kind of flavor and aroma profiles. This one does have a little bit of that slight kind of clovey flavor to it. That's extremely typical, very commonplace on a Hefeweizen with a Z, W-E-I-Z-E-N, Weizen, but not always the case on a Witbier. But this one does have that little bit of a clovey sense to it. It's very, very nice. And that can sometimes come from spices that they would add in a Witbier, but often, more often than not, it comes from the yeast strain that's used. But it's absolutely delicious. This tastes just as good as any number of German Witbiers I've ever had, and I have had many, many of them over the years. This is absolutely incredible. So, I'm going to jump back in, second sip. We're going to let everything re-intensify. I'm going to pick this apart, see if I missed anything, then we'll talk about the finish. But I got to say, job well done, Radiant. What a fabulous Witbier. I'm really, really happy I got this one. Take two. Yeah. But it does have some substance to it. Medium light. It's full. It's round. Very wet. The mouthfeel, there is a good bit of resistance to it. Surprising amount of resistance considering it's only 5.2% ABV and it's just a Witbier. Other thing I can say, when you agitate on the pellet, this one gets extremely creamy. Extremely creamy. It really fills up the oral cavity far bigger than whatever size swallow that you get in there. Very nice texturally and weight-wise. Feels great. Second sip, re-intensification of everything. Did exactly that. It just re-intensified everything. Let me get it again. So there's this nice citrus bite to it. There is this subtle kind of underlying clovey sense to it. There's this nice doughy, bready, grain-like quality to it. The coriander really pairs well with the citrus. I mean, they're, spices. I am guessing they use coriander because it tastes classic. It's really, really well done. This is a very, very refreshing beer. In terms of the finish, this is very prototypical for the style. It is not one that lingers on the palate for a very long time. It's not a style that ends with a dry palate at all on the back. I would say this is a textbook Witbier finish. Within about 15-ish seconds, there's just last little whispers, vestiges of some of those underlying spices and peels, and then it just floats away into nothingness. So compared to, say, a big barrel-aged Imperial Stout, it's very, very short on the finish, but that is exactly what the style is supposed to be. So I got to give this top marks. They absolutely nailed it. This is textbook. Fantastic beer. I don't drink enough Witbiers. I'm really, really glad that I got this, and Radiant did a tremendous job. Brewed true to style. I think you could put this in a lineup, blind, taste testing, in a lineup with native Germans that drink these all the time, and they would have a hard time telling you this was brewed by an American craft brewer. It's absolutely incredible. I'm going to take my time, sip on this one, count my scores. When we come back, we'll get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Radiant Beer Company's Blank Slate, a Witbier clocking in at 5.2% ABV. Radiant Beer Company is based in Anaheim, California. So this followed a classic Witbier, or if you pronounce it as the Germans do, Witbier recipe. This was a cloudy wheat beer that had citrus peel and additional spices. I am 100% certain, even though they didn't tell you specifically, coriander seed was one of the spices. Beyond that, I'm not really sure. But what I do know, it was absolutely fantastic. This beer was equally as good as any of the best German Witbiers I've had in my life, to be certain. And I have had many, many, many of them. This is, and I looked it up because I've had a lot of luck this year with beers. I have reviewed just shy of 750 different beers on this channel. Out of those nearly 750, this is now only the 15th beer that has gotten a perfect score in all categories. So a total score of 100. It did sweep it, and it well earned it. That is aroma, taste, body, mouthfeel, finish, head and retention, appearance, balance, feeling / intangible, and example of the style. It absolutely earned that perfect score. This was textbook Witbier. I absolutely loved it. If you're a fan of the style, if you've had a bunch of German and other European brewed Witbiers, but you've never had American craft or never tried this one, highly, highly recommend it. It was just spot on for the style. Extremely well done. If you put this in a lineup and took the labels off, there is no reality I would be able to tell you that American craft brewer brewed this. And that's the highest compliment I can give. Absolutely true to style. They nailed it. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications, hit that bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.